So you know what they say, K is the way. Well, actually, I don't know if anyone says that. I say it, though, so it must be. Hey, breaking news here. President Trump says that he likes Kei Cars, and he wants to pave the way for the Kei car here in the United States. Now, before you start jumping onto auction sites and placing bids on a Suzuki Carry, maybe a Honda Acti or two, by the way, the four-wheel drive Actis are sweet. I love those. But before you do that, and especially if you're a car guy like me, I don't think this necessarily means what we wish it means, what we wish it would, right? So we'll get into that and more. And I do want to play a clip here from President Trump talking about exactly that and how he likes Kei Cars. Yes, President Trump says he likes Kei Cars. But before we do, I want to remind you that not only can you catch the show here on video, this show happens on the radio all across Southern Colorado. I host a weekly automotive talk radio show. And if you're in Colorado, listen to it on the radio every weekend. Or you can catch it right here on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, and more. And remember to subscribe to it as well here on YouTube. Now, with President Trump saying that he likes Kei Cars, well, let me let him tell you how he likes them, why he likes them, and then we'll get into what this means for you and me if this actually comes to be. So let's check it out.
It's separate from this meeting, but I think everybody here would agree with it. If you go to Japan, where I just left, and if you go to South Korea and Malaysia and other countries, they have a very small car, sort of like the Beetle used to be with the Volkswagen. They're very small, they're really cute, and I said, how would that do in this country? And everyone seems to think good, but you're not allowed to build them. And I've authorized the secretary to immediately approve the production of those cars. So you'll be able to buy, they really are, they're actually, some of them are really beautiful, actually. If you take a look, Honda, some of the Japanese companies do a beautiful job, but we're not allowed to make them in this country. And I think you're going to do very well with those cars. So we're going to approve those cars. Would you like to say something about that?
Secretary Sean Duffy comes in here to add some stuff as well, and this is worth hearing.
He's calling me at midnight in the States, but he gave me the directive to clear the regulations on this, which we have. And so if Toyota or any other company wants to make smaller, more affordable cars, fuel efficient, we have cleared the deck so they can make them in America and sell them in America.
They're really nice and less expensive. And it really gives people a chance to have a car, have a brand new car as opposed to a car that maybe isn't so great. And so you car companies start thinking about that. I think it's going to be a tremendous.
He's looking over his shoulder here, and we'll go ahead and stop it there. And by the way, you could see a number of executives from Ford, Stellantis, and so on. And that was off to his left shoulder next to Sean Duffy. That was Ford CEO Jim Farley. You could see him there. I was looking at him during that. It's like, blink twice if you're being held here against your will. He's just kind of there. All right. Anyway, so President Trump says that he likes Kei Cars and that they're cute. Yes, they're cute even. President Trump likes them because they are cute. They are cute. That is actually a fact. That is a indisputable fact. And if you don't think they're cute, you're probably a terrible person and you don't think puppies and cats are cute either. So, but having said this is an interesting directive from the president. This is a very interesting directive here because the cost is one thing that has been brought up here, which is that Kei Cars are significantly cheaper than full-size cars. Now, to the uninitiated, by the way, I'm kind of flying into this assuming you know what a Kei car is. Now, the majority of my audience and my listeners do know what Kei Cars are, but in case you don't, this is we'll get you up to speed. It's a classification of miniature car sold generally in Japan, but in a lot of other Asian countries. And the engine displacement has to be really small, like 660 cc's, basically. And in Japan, they do it for legal reasons. These cars fit within a different tax range than a full-size car. Now, in Japan, they tend to tax cars based on engine displacement. Bigger engine, more tax. So that's why you see these as an ultra-affordable, cheap mini car with basically motorcycle engines. I mean, 660 cc's. Gosh, I've got motorcycles with more displacement than that. So that's not a big engine, but they are generally very fuel efficient. They're also very small. And when I was in Japan a few months back, I saw these everywhere, and it was really cool. There's a whole Kei Cars scene there for modifying these cars, tuning these cars. They're really, really interesting and fascinating cars. Now, I'm actually going back to Japan again here in January, and just to look at Kei Cars, in fact, for no other purpose whatsoever. I might do like one or two other things while I'm there, but I will be traveling there. The plan right now is to travel there with Wesley Kagan. I've roped him into this harebrained idea, and I told him there would be a beautiful 5-star luxury resort with skiing and everything he could possibly want. Daily foot massages. You know, Wesley Kagan's he's into that sort of thing. You know, so anyway, so I'll be traveling to Japan with Wesley. That's in January. If you want to follow along, remember to subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff and filming some things while I'm there that I just can't show you on the radio show. Obviously, because it's radio. I can't actually show you anything on radio. It's all theater of the mind. But the Kei Cars in Japan are really sweet. And they fit the roads there. The roads are really small. They're ideal for the road sizes there. And they're affordable. They're affordable, both because they fall within a lower tax range than full-size cars do, but because they're also smaller. You get good fuel economy with that little baby engine. It's got tiny tires, small brakes. Your consumables and your maintenance are really low on those cars. They're really cool. And they have everything from, Kei trucks to Kei vans to Kei sports cars. I've been wanting to get one of my goals is to rent a Honda S660 while I'm in Japan. That is sort of my Kei car holy grail. And you might say, well, why that one? Well, because that's it's the modern Honda Beat. The Honda Beat is a sweet mid-engined sports car. It's like a baby NSX, kind of like my K-swapped S2000, sort of. That's over here. It's off frame on video right now. It's normally in the background. I love the S2000, and it's like a baby S2000. And the S660 is the more modern version of that. And with that being the modern version, yeah, I've been around a few Honda Beats here in the States, and yeah, they're older because we've got the 25-year rule. One of the things I really want to do while I'm in Japan is go see those newer Kei cars that are, for all intents and purposes, legitimately unobtainium here in the U.S. because of said 25-year import rule. So there's some neat stuff I want to see with Kei Cars, and the Kei Car it's an interesting concept. Don't be confused with the Chrysler K platform car, by the way. We're not talking about legalizing Chrysler LeBarons and stuff. Of course, the K platform, fascinating history there with Lee Iacocca. I could do a whole podcast episode just on that, and I probably will at some point. But this is not that. Now, President Trump enjoyed the Kei Cars while he was in Japan. I wonder if he's like a JDM sort of car guy. I don't picture him being a JDM sort of Kei car guy. I mean, just imagine him driving around in like a little maybe he'd drive around in like a Toyota Hiace or something. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, you could have like the Trump hair as a wig on the Hiace. I think that would look appropriate. But anyway, he's talking about he would rather not bringing these over. He's talking about allowing, from a perspective of regulation, small cars here in the United States. And I have mixed thoughts on this because every single time we have had a cool, interesting small car, nobody buys them. Nobody buys them. When he says in that clip, I think these would do really well here. I think these would do well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Car guys like me, car nerds, maybe that's you as well. I mean, we don't call ourselves car nerds necessarily, but that's what we are. That is what we are. But we want that sort of thing. But does it have mass appeal? I think only if that mass appeal comes at the right price tag. And it needs to be cheap like really cheap for that to have the correct mass appeal. Then again, is the thought of the Kei car, this small micro car, is that something that your American buyer really wants? Because your American buyer buys the most popular truck in the United States by a long shot, the Ford F-150. So if you own an F-150, or maybe you know someone who does, picture that person and picture if that person would buy a Kei car. Again, me as a car enthusiast, maybe you're a car enthusiast as well. Yeah, we would. We definitely would. But as the enthusiasts, I'd like to think that we, are the leading market share of automobile purchases in the United States. In reality, we're such, as car guys, I know we like to think that, we're big and important in the car world, but look at how many new cars we actually buy. We're like the sort of people who, are the fourth and fifth owners of all these cars. So manufacturers don't really care all that much about us car guys, because they know, for one, we're probably not going to be the first buyer. They're not going to make their money off of us. And for two, we want weird, low-volume, stupid stuff. Even when we do buy new stuff, we always want weird, low-volume stuff, and there's just not enough of us out there to make money off of. I talked about this on a bonus edition of the podcast a couple weeks ago with Jim Miller. Nissan is seeing such a dip in sales on the new Z car that they are basically, they're not canning the car yet. I think it's going to happen. They're going to a direct order model for it. They're no longer going to ship them to dealers. You got to spec one out and you got to order it. Now, you could argue, and I did argue in that podcast, that was because the Z car is also so out of its price range for what it is that no one wants to buy it, which is still valid. But understand that the people like you and me who want to buy Kei cars do not make up the general buying public. And in fact, I would like us to make up the general buying public, but it's probably better we don't, because then you're going to get guys then everyone's going to be like me and drive around really terrible cars all the time. And that could cause a problem. Or they could be like Jim Miller, and his Celica had some brake problems. You might have heard about that on the show. But all things considered here, these are American Kei cars that the president wants. And obviously, they're probably not going to be called Kei cars. Kei car, Kei Jidosha in Japanese is just, it's a small car. It's called that because of the full name for it in Japanese. But imagine Chevy making a Kei car and Ford making a Kei car. I don't know if they're going to make something that's actually, that lives up to what we think of when we think of a Kei car in Japan. Because part of the reason car guys like me love those Kei cars is because they're also quirky, they're different, they're unusual, they're strange from the American perspective. There is a novelty to these Kei cars that you don't have, and I don't think you would even get that with a domestic Kei car. I really don't think you would. Now, the critics of this say that he can't do this. I've seen a number of things saying that this will never work because of the regulations. The regulations will never allow this to work. Yeah, but did you just hear what he said? Did you just hear what he said and what Secretary Sean Duffy also said, that they are paving the way regulation-wise for this to happen, that they want to clear those regulations out? So the argument from the naysayers that I see is that the regulations will never let this happen. The whole thing they said is that they're going to can those regulations so that this can happen. The other thing I have seen online that is critical of this, because overall, I think this is a good thing, even though I don't think this will be as widely loved by the auto enthusiast as the quirky, unusual, imported JDM Kei cars. As much as I don't think that's the case, I do believe that if this is an option and that if this is something that it ends up proving that consumers want, it's a good thing all around. Consumers should have more choice in the market, not less choice. But one of the other things I've seen that has been in opposition to this, which, by the way, just because it's Trump, everyone's going to hate Kei cars now, by the way, because it's just everyone just has to be contrary to anything he says, even though Kei cars, again, are cool. But the fact is, people are saying that, well, oh my God, what about the safety on here? The safety's going to be a major problem. These are going to be wildly unsafe. That's been an argument against Kei cars just even the imported ones. Many states have been trying to ban these cars, ban existing 25-year-old imported Japanese Kei cars on the merits of safety, which is an absurd argument, in my opinion. That is an absurd argument. And the reason that's absurd is, for one, who are they to determine my safety? I am responsible at the end of the day for my own safety, as you are, right? And I get to make my decision on what I believe is safe. But for two, motorcycles exist. Do I have to explain that anymore? Oh my God, these little cars are so unsafe. What happens if an F-150 hits you in one of these things? Okay, what happens if anything hits you on a motorcycle? Short of, I don't know, a mosquito, right? Okay, and we allow motorcycles to exist on the roads. No problem. No problem. Those exist on the roadways, and it's not an issue. Likewise, to that same argument, people go, whoa, what if an F-150 hits you in a Kei car? What if an F-250 or an F-350 hits you? You're toast. Well, yeah, what if an F-350 hits you in anything, by the way? You're not having a good day, except if you're in maybe another F-350. But even if you're in another F-350, all right, fine. By that logic, what if a semi-truck hits you? Huh? What if you're not going to drive your F-150 or your F-350 because, oh my God, it's so unsafe. What if a semi-truck hits me? The argument can be applied all the way down this line of reasoning, and that, to me, nullifies any safety concerns with Kei cars. Also, let's not forget that Kei cars exist on the roads in Japan. And people like to say, well, yeah, but there's lower speed limits in Japan. The roads are smaller. Well, yes, there are lower speed limits in some areas. And in the inner city areas, the roads are smaller. I've been there. I've seen it personally. But you know what else I saw personally while I was in Japan? And we'll roll some clips of that here in the video as well. I saw American trucks. If you're looking on video right now, that's a Dodge Rumblebee pickup truck. I spotted that while I was in Yokohama. By the way, that's kind of a rare spotting. There's not a lot of the Rumblebees in particular, so that was interesting. But you know what else there is in Japan is Jeep Wranglers. Yep, saw a bunch of those. Those are there. In fact, there's this one with crazy wheels on it and the grumper front end. You thought these things were only in the United States, by the way. You thought they were only there. No, they made them. They made it over to Japan, complete with curb rash. So even the drivers there can't seem to drive these things without curbing the expensive-looking wheels. But semi-trucks exist in Japan, too. The semi-trucks share the roads with the Kei cars. They do. So, to the naysayers' point that, oh my God, these cars are less safe. Yeah, motorcycles aren't safe either. The speed limits are lower and the roads are smaller in Japan, and everyone's driving these cars, so a collision's not as big of a deal. No, there's pickup trucks. Sure, not as many pickup trucks. I get that. Tons of box trucks, though. Tons and tons of box trucks, tons of semi-trucks all over the place, and lots of regular other cars, like full-size sedans. The Toyota Crown, it's a full-size sedan. I saw a ton of them over there, the new current Crowns, and they've got heavy hybrids and things, and SUVs. Oh, my gosh, Land Cruisers. Toyota Land Cruisers all over the place in Japan, too. Right? So, like, people like to say that, oh, well, Japan's just filled with these Kei cars and that's it. No, there's all sorts of other cars in Japan. There are. So, these cars are safe enough that the Japanese government, which, by the way, tends to be stricter than the United States government on all sorts of regulations, everything from emissions to safety and other things, deems these cars safe enough to be on the road. So, from that perspective, I don't think there's an issue with Kei cars. And from a free market perspective, I think that this is a good idea, because do I think consumers will buy these in droves? Again, only if the price is truly low enough that it makes sense. But even, if they don't, you should, as a consumer, be allowed to make that decision for yourself. Why are we regulating these out of existence when there's really no good reason to do so, other than the fact that it would infringe on some other auto sales at that point. And again, Trump here is not saying let's bring Japanese Kei cars over. He's saying if you're making these in the United States, and he applied that to Toyota and Honda, if you're making them in the United States, let's go for it. Same thing for Ford, Dodge, and Chevy. You make them in the United States, good, right? That's what this is all about, is making stuff in the U.S. This doesn't mean that we're going to get cool JDM Kei cars. This doesn't necessarily even mean a immediate approval of existing Kei cars, because that's been contested in various states. In some states it's legal, in other states it's not. And in some states it's a legal gray zone. You may or may not get registration. It just is like case by case, right? So that's, now granted, if this class of car does get made, and it starts getting made by Ford, starts getting made by Chevy and so on, and obviously Toyota and Honda in the U.S., which, by the way, most of Toyotas and Hondas in the U.S. are made in the U.S. Well, most. Toyota's making the Tacomas and Tundras in Mexico now. What can you do about that? But anyway, so if that class of car does get approved, good chances are the states aren't going to heckle you over your JDM Kei car that you may have imported. So, I mean, in a roundabout way, this can be good for a car enthusiast, from a car enthusiast perspective. But in the big picture, this isn't necessarily what you and I, the enthusiasts, want, which is just, full approval to start bringing JDM Kei cars over. You know, you can import them. Can you register them? Don't know yet. We'll see. So let me know your thoughts on this. Would you drive a Ford Kei car? What would they call it? Like, you could have like a little Kei truck, a little Ford Kei truck. You got the F-150, F-250, F-350. Would this just be the Ford 50? I don't know. So I guess that's kind of where the Ford Maverick sits right now. But again, this is something smaller and ideally even cheaper than the Ford Maverick. Should I also point out the fact that a lot of Kei cars, specifically Kei trucks from Japan, even though they're these little dinky baby trucks with a little cab over design, they have more usable bed space than most American pickup trucks. From a utility standpoint, that's pretty good. But clearly American buyers aren't always buying things from a utility standpoint. So let me know your thoughts. Would you buy the Ford 50? F50. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Remember to catch this show on the radio in Southern Colorado, or the full podcast of the radio show, YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, and more. I'll talk to you right here next week.